So then we've got constraints and sort of what the speech does. Now we got to start dialing in the process. What are you trying to do with a potential topic? And how are the rhetorical constraints weighing upon that? So let's say you're presenting research. Let's say you're a scientific researcher. And that presentation would change if you were presenting in front of a funding board, trying to look for additional grant support, or if you were presenting at a retirement home. I don't know how that is other places in the world. Retirement homes love speakers, and so there's lots of opportunities to go speak at retirement homes. And so if you're presenting to that sort of lay public, you could be talking about the exact same topic and have much of the exact same evidence, but the speech is different. The presentation is different because those two different constraints are different. That funding board is, experts, and they're looking for certain types of information. That retirement home, I'm assuming, is not a retirement home for retired scientists, but so it's a lay audience. They need a little bit more background with the topic matter itself. So as a thought experiment, as a way of working through this in a specific way, let's talk about what you might choose to do for your informative speech for this class. Well, first let's think about what's the relationship between the topic and the audience. So in this assignment, you want to give us new information. Okay, so then it's like, well, what sort of topic works for this massive audience? Rhetorician Chaim Perlman used to talk about the universal audience, and that meant something very specific for him. You actually have not a universal audience. I don't know how far, if it goes out to, I don't think there's anyone on another planet going, this is fascinating stuff. So yours is a global audience. But what is useful, what is interesting for an audience of this scope? And I think you can assume little background. So whatever you're talking on, you need to assume that we're starting basically from first position. We don't know a lot about your topic. I do think you can assume basic level of education. But certainly, you have to sort of meet us where we are as an audience. Okay, so the topic and audience relationship, thinking about that for this class. Topic and speaker relationship. Okay, so what's within your wheelhouse, in your bailiwick? What is your area of expertise? And expertise can mean various things. If you've got a hobby, what is something that you spend a lot of time with and that you just know particularly well? If it's your job, what's something that, from your job that you can share with the rest of us that is beneficial to us, that we should understand? Once again, I don't want you to spend too much time doing outside research trying to figure out what you're going to be speaking on. Take something that you can speak on with some expertise. Then we get into the occasion. Well, this is a class on public speaking. So, what's an appropriate concern for this class? And I would say here, aim to be truly informative, okay, not agenda setting. So you could do a presentation on, if you were here, you could do a presentation on the major tourist attractions of Seattle. That's an informative speech. That's helpful if, for me, even living here in Seattle, or for somebody who's not from here. What are the major tourist attractions of Seattle? That's fine as an informative speech. This is not fine as an informative speech. The empirical reasons why Portland, Oregon is a horrible city. That's not truly informative. You're pushing an agenda there. There are 5 reasons why everyone in Portland is ugly. It's astonishing. Scientists have demonstrated this. That's not an informative speech. Portland's awesome. The people there are beautiful, hipstery in all their ways. And so I'm not there. I'm trying to use that as an illustration. I want these speeches, you should want these speeches to be informative. Okay? You're not sneaking in anything like that. Aim to be informative and non-controversial. Don't talk about how awful Portland is, because it isn't. Then we're thinking about your topic and time. So this is a 5 to 10 minute speech, a 5 to 10 minute address. How can you address your potential ideas in that time frame? Because quite honestly, 5 to 10 minutes is not a lot of time. That's pretty tight. So you're looking at just a handful of points, and you got to really dial in that topic so that you can cover it in the allotted time. Now, that can mean various things. I can talk I could talk about the history of rhetoric in 10 minutes, but my points are massive. The classical tradition, the medieval tradition, and the modern tradition. All right, I can do that in 10 minutes. That's a lot of breadth and depth, but I could also in 10 minutes dial it into one specific concept from the classical tradition. So, it's not that 10 minutes means you have to go hyper-specific, but that the points that you're coming up with are appropriate for 10 minutes. The history of the universe in 10 minutes. They're going to be big points. They're not going to be, first let's get into the very specific details about hydrogen particles. That would take a really long time to do that presentation, but you're thinking about how can the topic fit to the time. So what are some potential topic ideas for this assignment, for this class? Research updates, some stuff that you do that you just know about, new products if that's your area, scientific breakthroughs, if you happen to follow that, you're interested in those type of things, you can report to us on some new scientific breakthroughs. You don't have to be the one who made the breakthrough. You can just tell us about some of these. Some interesting ideas, history, love history speeches, they're easy to arrange, and places or travel destinations. So if I was, and I'm going to work up a topic for this as a way of demonstrating the various stages of this class. If I'm coming up with a topic idea for this class, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think about my areas of expertise. My areas of expertise are rhetoric, online education, increasingly, graduate education, because I teach classes on that as well, and Seattle. Not the foremost expert on Seattle, but it's awesome and I know a lot about it. So if I'm looking through those, and I'm thinking in terms of what would be interesting to an audience. Well, I can't go hyper-specific, but I need something that's going to be accessible to them. And I also got to think about, 5 to 10 minutes. So in 5 to 10 minutes, I could probably talk a little bit about Isocrates, who was a rhetorician, not Socrates, Isocrates, contemporary of Socrates, but different rhetorician. So I could talk about Isocrates. I could talk about the rhetorical concept of kairos, very specific thing, but it has a lot. It's a very rich term. I'm probably going to end up doing this one. I could talk about a brief history of presidential debate, American presidential debate. That's something I've spoken on in the past. I could talk about Seattle's Great Fire. We had a big fire here, like Chicago had a fire, we had a fire. Leveled all of downtown, kind of interesting because it changed the way that the city developed. I could do a 5 to 10 minute presentation on how to write a letter of application to a graduate school. All of those are things that are within my realm of expertise, can be covered in 10 minutes, and I think would be interesting to a vast majority of this online audience. So those are some of the potential topics. But again, this is a matter of judgment. And so you are now in the process of puzzling through what is an appropriate response. And by the way, appropriate is different from right. There is no one right way to address one topic for one audience. There are multiple ways based on your unique skills, traits, and abilities. So you're thinking in terms of what is the appropriate fit, what is the appropriate response to these various rhetorical constraints. So I'd ask you to be thinking more about this. In the last lecture of this week, we're going to take up speech goals, so it would help between the end of this video and the beginning of the next one if you've jotted down 3 or 4 ideas for a topic presentation for this class. Even if you don't plan on recording a speech, it's going to be useful to you as a practice space, as a way of developing and testing ideas to be working up or at least thinking through how you would do a presentation for this class.